everyone, Deborah Hamilton, Hamilton ADR, North Carolina, and of course, my wonderful MAAP community and the Why Do Pets Matter podcast. We're back up and running on the Why Do Pets Matter podcast. Please don't miss our latest edition. And I'm so glad everyone is here tonight, ready to learn and ready to maybe meet some puppies. Kalina has some puppies she's going to show us in a minute. But first, as always, I introduce myself. I'm Deborah Hamilton. I am the creator of this community that helps people navigate the journey their pets take when they can't care for them short-term, long-term. And for those of us that are new, MAAP stands for Make a Plan, because you have to write it down. You have to make a plan, write it down. Appoint caregivers. You absolutely have to appoint at least 3, and only 1 can be a family member, because if something happens to you, your family is going to appreciate that you have other people that can come in and help you with your animals when they're taking care of you. The other A stands for address the needs of your pet, and we're going to go a little into addressing the needs of the pet and the caregivers' responsibilities tonight. I'm going to talk about how many times you should call and what you should ask, and things that you need to balance with trust and with necessity when you have a caregiver taking care of your pets. And finally, the most important piece of the MAAP plan is that you need to publish it, which again means it needs to be in writing, and it needs to be given to the people who are going to implement it, which means your attorney, your veterinarian, your caregivers, your family members, all the people who will help you implement that plan that you're making for the long-term or short-term care of your pets. So without further ado, I'm going to check in with everyone. Susan, how is Maggie doing? Oh, she's not caught in yet. So let me go to Alexandra. Alexandra, how are you, Alex? How are you? We still haven't connected. My apologies. It's been crazy here.
Hey, doing really well. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. And Wiggle is doing good?
Yeah, she's right here next to me. And yes, actually, I need to send you some times anyways over the next few weeks. So
that would be great, because then we'll get on each other's calendars. And I'm so glad that Wiggle is good and that you're good and that you're here tonight. We appreciate it, because this is going to be an interesting discussion about how many times to check in with your caregivers who are taking care of your pets, and what you should expect. So Kalina, are you there?
Yes, I am here. And okay.
Oh, look at those babies. Oh my goodness.
One of them is nursing and everyone else is sleeping.
They already filled their bellies. Look at
Yes,
those.
we have peepers now. They have eyes open.
Oh, wonderful. Hi, look at that face. You just want to smush it. I can smell the puppy breath. And mom's like, wait a minute, what is going on? Oh, look at those faces. Look at those wrinkles. Beautiful markings. Just beautiful. Mommy and daddy did very well.
Yes.
Wonderful. There they are. Oh, look at that. It's a big one. Look at that head. How
we call her Jabba because she's been the biggest ever since they came out.
Yeah. So she's and she'll probably end up to be just the same size. It's just that they tend to, just come out different sizes. Wonderful. Well, what a wonderful way to start our discussion about taking care of your pets, because of course, if you do have puppies, you need to make sure that you have someone lined up to take care of your pets if in fact something occurs while you have little babies on the ground. You always have to have air and a spare, so to speak. You have to have yourself, who's the main caregiver, but then God forbid something occur, you have someone else. I know when I have my litters of puppies, and I know Kalina spoke about it last time, that she has some people lined up where she is to help in the event something occurs, because, oh, look at the belly roll. I love it. This is the best part. It's not that I don't want to see your beautiful face, Kalina, but this is really wonderful. We all are enjoying mommy taking care of her babies. Oh, and look at this. Good girl. You're such a good girl. So let me check in with Susan. Are you connected now? Oh, look, you're holding on to Maggie. We've never seen her before.
I'm trying to keep her quiet. She's quite a little barker, and I've got a couple of Zooms going on right now, and so I thought maybe I'd try letting her join the meeting.
Well, she's always welcome. We've never met her before, so she's always welcome. Hi,
She's
Maggie.
growing a lot, so
That's okay. Hi, baby.
she needs to be groomed, but I kind of dread
I
taking her
know.
to the groomer because they can never finish the groom. So
Yeah.
if you've got some calming
I
suggestions.
sent you a lot of information. Did you get the emails that I sent you in the
I
Facebook
didn't see it.
messages?
No, I didn't see it.
It's really weird. So I'll be sending them again because there were several Facebook messages that I sent you for products that were suggested. So I will send it to you again. No worries.
Okay.
But it's good to meet Maggie.
Yeah.
Good to meet her. Hey, Jan, I see Tonka's up and awake.
He's very in your like there today. He's kind of like attention hugging.
That's
But
good
yeah,
though.
yes,
It
he's
was so great. I got to meet Jan a week ago this past Saturday. Oh no, Sunday at a dog show. And it was wonderful because I get to meet people in the flesh. She
Right.
actually attended an Irish setter dog show and she said, boy, I've never seen a dog show before in the flesh. So it was quite an experience. And I tried to explain to her all the crazy things that go on, but I hope that everyone was welcoming and that at least it was a wonderful experience. We had wonderful weather.
Yeah, it was a beautiful day. And I can share now, but I did a little homework on one of the questions that we had asked a number of weeks ago.
Mhm.
So I can do that now, or I can wait, whatever you want.
Let me check in and see if whoever is 204-819 wants to introduce themselves, tell us about your pet and what brings you here to the MAAP program tonight. You don't have to. I'll just give you the opportunity to introduce yourself. We talk about various things. We're a community. So people come with questions, people bring answers to questions that have been posed. And I always set up the program by telling everyone what MAAP stands for, which again, it stands for making a plan in writing. You have to make that plan in order to have it carried out. Appointing caregivers, there have to be 3 and only 1 can be a family member because if something happens to you, they're going to want to be with you. So if you have others that can step in, and we help people find the people in their area that could step in. We're still working with Susan to find that. I know that Jan has found several people in her area based on all of our suggestions. And so has Sally and Gordon, who aren't here tonight because they have family over. So it's just really an important piece. And then addressing the needs of your pet, MAA. So appoint caregivers, address the needs of your pet, which means you really need to tell people, like Susan would tell people that Maggie is not really good at the groomers and she could get a little feisty at times. And she would let people know that because that way Maggie will find the right home and the right caregiver, and the caregivers who Susan would appoint would know what to expect from Maggie, because that's the most important piece, is for your dog to know their caregivers that they might go to short-term, long-term, and for the caregivers to know them. And then finally, if you write everything down and you appoint all the people and you address all the needs, you need to publish all that information with your attorney, with your veterinarian, with all your caregivers, everyone, so that they know how you would like to have your pet cared for. So before I get into what I thought I would talk about, which is how many times to check in with your caregiver and what will drive them nuts, Jan, why don't you hop in and answer the question, and then we'll go to the other piece before we end.
Sure. So a number of weeks ago, we talked about, we were chatting about car accidents, and I think I brought up, I wondered what happens with, like, if something happens to your pet, what happens? Like, are you responsible? So I called my insurance carrier, who actually said I was the first person ever to ask that question, and said that if I was responsible for the accident, there's nothing in my insurance that would cover Tonka. If the other party is responsible, he said you could try to get money, but they weren't really sure whether you could. And then I called my insurance agent and I asked him, and he said most likely if my insurance carrier wouldn't cover it. Someone else's insurance carrier is not going to cover it either. So basically, it would be my responsibility for his care, which is no different than normal care, except that, it was an accident. He said I could try filing through pet insurance to have pet insurance, but that was just figured I would let everybody know that, if you have an accident,
even though they're considered property, and you would think that your insurance on your car would cover property damage in quotations and their property, it has not extended to pets as of yet. And maybe that's something that I'll bring to my bar association to see if we can look into whether or not that can be part of a rider that you could maybe purchase for your pet on your insurance. I'll go and ask USAA, my insurance provider, whether or not that is available on my insurance. I'm so happy you did that extra investigation, Jan. I'll ask USAA, and then I'll ask them if there's a rider that could be put on. And I'll also reach out to the insurance section of the bar association and ask them if they've ever had that question, because I would think that there could be a rider put on, like you can have a rider put on your house to cover any damages that your dog might do to others, but that not necessarily what others might do to damage your pet. So let's look into that. That is really a good question we discussed earlier, and a little more information for everyone. So if you'd like, call your car insurance company and ask them and report back whether or not this property in your car, which is your pet, and it's listed as property, although it's personal property, and it is sort of getting a higher level of status now that many states in the United States are treating pets of divorce as entities to be considered what's in their best interest, like children, even though that has never been defined and could not necessarily be the best level of evaluation for a pet. We just had our first case in New York come down in a divorce case involving pets. They were Rottweilers. The husband moved out of the abode, but before the husband moved out of the family home, he had fed the dogs and walked the dogs. Now, the case doesn't go into why he moved out or why he didn't take the dogs with him. However, the court found that since the dogs stayed in the house and the wife took care of the dogs, that the dogs should stay put, even though there was testimony in the or information shared in the decision that the wife did say that one of the dogs was really pining for her father. So for me, of course, as a mediator of conflicts between people over animals, I truly believe you need to make that plan before you get divorced. That's the best way. While you still like each other, how are you going to share the dogs? Because let's think about the dogs and not about, being right. Let's get it right. The decision was well thought out under the law, and that's a whole different process than under what might be advantageous for the pet. The court will not ever entertain custody visits with pets because they're property, and it's only recently that their best interests are even being considered in several states. So they're never going to say, oh, well, you guys work it out, you'll share it. There are two glaring errors, and I'm writing an article for next week to submit to the New York State Bar Association talking about this case, which the two glaring errors I see is there is no way for the spouse who has no connection to the pet now to be contacted really if the pets get sick to either say goodbye or help with the financial care of the pets. There was nothing in the decision that I saw that spoke to who took care of the financial expenses of the pet. And finally, if the custodial parent has the pets and can't keep them anymore, there's nothing in the decision that says, if I can't keep them anymore, I have to call you first, which of course the pets would really appreciate because they do clearly like their other pet owner. So that would be something that you would really want to make sure is in any agreement that you might make. I just spoke in New York last week with Judge Cooper, who was one of the leading voices in finding something more than just property when it comes to the pets of divorce, a property issue when it comes to pets of divorce. And he thought that asking the court to add a term of first right of care, so that if one cannot care for the pet, that the prior spouse, prior pet owner was asked before the pets were given away or given to a shelter, whether or not they wanted the pets, was an important piece of the decision. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone understands that when you go to court for pet custody cases, it's either or, it's not both, which is why I don't litigate anymore, because unfortunately your pet doesn't hate your ex. And if something happens to you, they choose your ex every time over some stranger. And so making sure you keep in touch, both for financial reasons and for care and custody reasons, is very important, which is why I do what I do. So thank you, Jan, for bringing up the insurance question again. That was really important. And now I want to just touch generally on what's a good check-in for the care of your pets when you either go away on vacation and someone's caring for your pet, or if you have an accident and you're in the hospital. How many times can you call them? What will be annoying? What won't? What should you do to give them support and to check in? And what your expectations should be and what their expectations should be. So that's 3 pieces. One is checking in once a day is probably fine. Twice a day, okay. More than that, a little annoying, most likely. And that's the last thing you want to do for your caregiver, because it may show or indicate to them, or they may feel that, you don't really trust them, and you really need to trust the caregivers you leave in charge of your pets. The second piece is that, okay, you're checking in once or twice, and they're doing things not really exactly as you want. The dogs aren't eating at 6 in.the.morning and 4 p.m. as usual. They're eating at 9 and they're eating at 6 p.m. So these are not life-threatening changes in their schedule. And when we build our MAAP plan, I am constantly helping people reality check what it is that's really most important for the care of their pet. Most of the time, the non-negotiables are medication. If your dog needs heartworm and flea preventative, that's a non-negotiable. That has to happen on a certain day. People can't, jockey around unless there's an emergency with the days that these medications are to be given. If your dog has diabetes, if your dog has kidney issues, if your dog has thyroid issues, there are medications that they are on that you need to write in addressing the needs of your pet so that your caregiver gives it at a right time. Those are non-negotiables. Whether or not dinner and breakfast are served at 6 and 4 or 9 and 6, not in line with what you had hoped for or anticipated. Not life-threatening to your pet, thank God. Your pet might get a little annoying to your caregiver if they're not eating at 4 and they're used to eating at 4. I know my other dogs did. Junie never eats, so it's always a blessing from heaven when Junie eats because he's a grazer. He's not a gobbler. I've always had gobblers, and now I have a grazer, which is really pretty annoying, but it's in his packet. He's a grazer, and you have to at least leave him in a kennel with his food for an hour or so, or leave his food in his kennel overnight if he's, in a kennel situation, because he will not eat unless he's grazing. So it's good to know that. If you have someone who's walking the dog instead of, letting it run in the backyard, or letting it run in the backyard instead of walking it, these are, again, it's nice to be able to say the dog needs to walk 3 times a day on a leash, 1.5 miles, that may be what your life allows for. If your caregiver, short-term, long-term, has a backyard that's safe, that they can let the dog out to self exercise, or at least to relieve itself, this is okay. It's a nice to have. It's not a gotta have. We'd love for everybody to do exactly what we do, the way we do it. And I always say there is absolutely no one on earth who is going to take care of your dog the way you do. And what we need to seek are people we trust. We trust that they will put the welfare of our pets above all else and make sure our pets are cared for while we're away, short-term or long-term, in a way that they thrive. So that means that if you have caregivers, your dogs need to know them before they have to go and stay with them or leave, be left with them. So if someone is a caregiver for your pet, make sure they see that person once or twice a year. Make sure that person, comes to the house, stays in the house. Make sure if they would then leave your house to go to their house, that they do it every once in a while, so that it's not this new and interesting thing. Holy shit, my mom or dad are gone, and now I'm living in a different place. It could really bring out a lot of anxiety in your pets. And that's what we want to foster, the meeting of the needs of your pets, which is making sure they know that this person is in lieu of mom. Mom goes away, dad goes away, this person comes in, then this person leaves, and mom and dad come back. So the dog has history, or the cat has history, or the bird or the horse have history. It really is important to set everyone up for success. I always say that the relationship with the caregiver, your relationship with the caregiver, is so important. And their relationship with your pet is very important, but does not have to necessarily be identical to your relationship. And with Susan, it would be a little difficult because Maggie is a little feisty. And so for her to find a caregiver who would understand the feistiness is something she needs to work on. And if the caregiver wanted to use, a cage or a kennel for Maggie to stay in while she's staying with her, that's something that probably should be practiced now before it might be needed, so that Maggie feels comfortable in the alternate situation. And what Susan would want is for the caregiver to be trusted by her, that she would do the best by Maggie, that she would take care of her and feed her and have her thrive while she was taking care of whatever emergency arose that she couldn't care for Maggie, and then that Maggie would come home and be none the worse for wear. I mean, that's, I think, what we all hope for. But the trust in the care. Oh, bye, Kaylina. I'm so glad you came and showed us puppy pictures. You're the best. Give everyone a kiss for us. And I hope this meant a little bit to you, this discussion tonight, because it's so important where you are to make sure that you have somebody who can step in, God forbid something happen. So you take good care. Do you want to add anything, Kaylina, before you leave? Oh, great. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. So Jan, let me check in with you. So I know you have left Tonka with caregivers, and I know that they do things a little differently than you do, and yet, amazingly, Tonka survives.
Yes, he does. He loves his caregiver. And through all these meetings and everything, a few weeks ago, I kind of sat down with myself and I thought to myself, really, what's the most important thing to me out of everything, whether that be short-term or long-term? And that was really that they love him. And she absolutely does. And I thought to myself, well, really, that's all that's important. That and his meds. I mean, everything else is going to be fine. It's not going to be exactly how I do it, but that's okay.
That's a great attitude to have, because he's going to thrive.
I'm not going to be here. And sometimes I think I'm an overprotective mother. So in a way, it might be good.
Yeah.
It'll be a little bit less intense than me.
He'll be wild and crazy then. How about you, Alexandra?
Sorry, I missed the question.
Oh, no worries. So the question was, when you've left Wiggle with another caregiver, if they don't do things exactly as you do it, however, they give medication and they feed the dog the right food, maybe not at the right time, but the right food. How have you found the need for trust of the care of your dog by the caregiver versus the minuscule things that absolutely you do for your dog, but the dog may not lack thrive if they don't get, their dinner at 6.
Yes, exactly. I really worry leaving Wiggle with people because she's so spoiled. So I know that no matter what, the answer is I pretty much never leave her with anyone else because I know that she won't be as happy when she's not getting constant attention, because with me, I literally am touching her all the time. Like she can't be just 1 inch away from me or she starts panicking, and trying to, so I think like I've gone out of town before and left her, but I left her, yes, with my ex, which we, of course, we've talked about a lot, that even if we don't get along with them, maybe our pets maybe love them the most. So that's actually really the only person I feel comfortable leaving her with, because I could leave her with my parents, but I know they're going to go to work and she's going to, yes, not get that attention she deserves. So I haven't found a great solution to that yet, except that, of course, y'all know I'm working on the agility system. So I'm hoping that will help for any time I have to leave, to at least give my dog something to listen and react, because she loves to do that.
Oh, fabulous. Yeah, because it really is important to have, more than one caregiver if you can. So your parents are an heir and a spare. Your ex, of course, my famous statement, which is unfortunately our pet doesn't hate our ex. So that is, if you can stand it, the pet would actually thrive because the ex does know the schedule. So that really works. But there's also the need for, alternatives so that if somebody can't take Wiggle, that they'd be able to, Wiggle would at least be able to thrive. And Susan, I know you've always had that difficulty in thinking that you can leave Maggie at all.
Yeah, because, I'm always worried that she would bite somebody or do something really bad. I don't know if you read about the 2 Rottweilers that killed 2 children. It came in my People magazine. I get their emails, and it scared the heck out of me. I don't think Maggie would do that, but she's expresses herself very strongly. And so I'm just about to send Alexandra a chat message, because maybe Maggie needs something like that agility system.
I would love
help her calm down.
Well, I know that Rose can probably connect the 2 of you, so I'll allow Rose to do that, because agility is something that you would have to participate in as well. Correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, but Susan, you would have, I'm sorry?
Well, we're building a system that rewards the dogs automatically using motion sensors. So they'll be able to use it while they're gone, while you're not with them. But it's just not done yet. But in the next few months, we'll have them. And yeah, it's just a motion sensor on the obstacle, like a hurdle, that's connected wirelessly to the treat dispenser. So your dog can learn to entertain themselves.
Jump over the jump or go through the tunnel or whatever, do the whatever tricks that you'll put up for the agility, they can do it themselves.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, fabulous. That would be so much fun.
Yeah.
So I don't know who 204 is, 819, but I'm so glad you're here. I hope this has been helpful. If you want to unmute yourself and introduce yourself, you're more than welcome to do that. If not, I'm going to go around and check with everybody whether or not this has, been helpful to them, because, we really want to make sure our dogs have very little disruption to their lives if disruption comes into our lives. However, sometimes that can't be helped. And as Jan said, the fact that the person gives the medication the way it's supposed to be given, and really loves Tonka, makes it more acceptable to have caregivers who may not do everything exactly the way we say. However, the dogs are really resilient, and they really know what it is that is going on. And of course, being able to have the dogs spend time with the caregivers, with various caregivers, so it gets to be not something instantaneous, but rather something they're used to, is really absolutely clear. So Jan, I'm going to start with you. What are you taking away?
I guess I'm always refining, kind of different. And I know you can't plan for every situation, kind of like different scenarios in my head and what would be best. And I think there are points where I would not feel comfortable. Like when my last dog was really, really old, it was very, very hard for me to travel because I didn't know if something would happen to her while I wasn't there. And the thought of not being there was devastating. Yeah, it was really, really hard for me to even kind of comprehend or deal with. But I always love coming because I always feel like it's just nice to reinforce everything.
And really understand that even though we don't want to leave them, because we never do, we always want to provide every care for them that we can. There may come a day when we don't have control over the fact we're leaving them. God forbid we die. However, we might have a stroke, or we might have COVID, or we might have Alzheimer's. And so we're slowly leaving. So making sure that our pets have a soft landing and navigating that landing for them, even if they are older and it would be really devastating for them, it's better than the alternative of not having a plan in place to continue the care that you want them to have. And even if we're young, our crystal balls are not as clear as we'd like them to be. So we really need to make plans. And even though some of our dogs may be naughty, we definitely need to make a plan in the event something occurs, because Susan, you shared with us that things could happen in your family and you might need someone to watch Maggie. And so making sure that that is a process that you're starting to really work on and put in place is key. I don't know if you're taking that away, because there's never going to be someone who's going to care for Maggie the way you do. And Maggie will definitely test the mortar or metal of anyone who comes in to care for her. However, it might be good to be able to start that so that you can get a little bit of a break. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I, always kind of keep in the back of my mind, well, she could always go to a kennel and be boarded, because there's all kinds of services you can get at a kennel. And that would be sort of, I would be comfortable doing that more so than asking someone, to put up with this, because it's a lot. I mean, she is really challenging to deal with. And I don't know what's causing it, but
she's a Catan. She's a Tulier Catan.
Yes, Catan de Tulier.
Sorry, Catan de Tulier. So she's a little white dog like a Bichon.
Similar, yeah.
So, I would suggest, and I do this with all love and affection, Susan, that you find a kennel nearby and you drop her off for a few hours at a time so they can get used to her, because you would hate to need a kennel and have her exhibit temperament or something that they wouldn't accept. And then you'd really be stuck.
Yeah, that's a good
establishing a relationship, even if you do it, from 9 to 12 or 12 to 3 on a given day, sort of, that might be something you consider, simply to set Maggie up for, I come back, this place is nice, might not be perfect, however, this will work. And then you'll be able to make sure that you have a backup plan for Maggie.
Yeah, I think, maybe one of the doggy daycares, or, they have really nice places that she might be able to go to. And maybe that would even alleviate some of that problem that she has.
Never know. And until you try, you won't know. And that might be your best next step, because she's so patterned for what she's doing now.
Yeah.
That to disrupt that pattern a little by just giving her a few hours off might be a benefit. She might be thankful to be home when
Yeah, right.
and that'll be great. Or she may, figure out that she can do things differently, which would be really nice as well.
It would be really nice. Yeah, I mean.
And then the offshoot of that is that you could find someone at the doggy daycare who could be a caregiver in the event, something happens.
Great idea. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it's always good to establish, especially since you don't have any family or family members, who would take it in lieu of the three of you, to establish some sort of a relationship with a group that would be able to step in and actively take care of your pet. You too, Alex, because even though Wiggle needs you there 24/7, making sure she gets an hour or two that would give her the opportunity to survive you not being there and your ex not being there, it would really extend her. It's very difficult for us to do, I know, because I never want to have my dogs not with me when I'm home and not cared for the way I want them to be cared for. However, if God forbid something occurs and, one of the D's pops up, right? So delay, disease, dementia, disability, if any of those pop up, it's going to be, cold turkey. And we definitely don't want our dogs. That's one thing I highly recommend. We don't want our dogs going cold turkey. We want our dogs to know that if I drop you off here, I come back. If I drop you off there, I come back. Jan has been doing that because she has a caregiver that she goes and visits her parents, and then she comes back and Tonka looks at her like, okay, I'll leave all my friends now and I'll come home with you, but I'm not so sure I want to do that. She told me that weekend. That's how I know that Tonka was very happy with his friends at the other house.
Maggie.
So
I also have somebody that's really local, of a friend who I take him there all the time, and she has 2 dogs, and he'll spend like an afternoon there. It's good for me because I get a break, and it's good for him because he gets to run around a little crazily, chasing other dogs and everything, and comes home usually a lot, quite tired. So
when we think that our dogs will just not do well without us in their lives, we're doing them a little bit of a disservice, not trusting them enough to understand that they are very resilient. And as long as we do it in an organized manner, to set them up for success, i.e., give them a place to go for an hour so that they know you come back. I think it is completely true that dogs have no idea the length of time you're gone, because when I put the garbage out or I leave for 10 days, the dog's welcome is the same. So really, he didn't know I was gone for 10 days, although he was a little more exuberant than he was usually when I go out for the garbage. But they really don't have a time frame. So if you can figure out a way to give them that opportunity so that if God forbid something happens, that transition isn't as traumatic for them as it would be if they hadn't been part of it. So we're up on time as always, and I'm so glad all of you are here. I hope whoever 204 is has enjoyed tonight's, you can pop something in the chat if you want as well, has enjoyed tonight's discussion. Remember, making a plan, appointing caregivers, addressing the needs of your pet, and publishing that plan is great. Make sure you have something up on your refrigerator, because that way, if God forbid something happens, someone knows what your plans are. And until next time, please kiss Maggie, please kiss Wiggles, and please kiss God Almighty. Don't tell me. I will get it, Jan. I'm having a brain fart at this moment. Okay, tell me, Jan.
Tonka.
How do I forget that? It's like the truck. Come on.
I know, exactly.
Deborah, I gotta go take my Nariva. I'm going to get off this call, go take my Nariva so that I will remember everybody's name, but kiss everyone for me. Deborah Hamilton, Hamilton ADR, North Carolina, of course, this wonderful MAAP community. And please join us next week when we'll talk about another incredibly interesting topic for the plans made for your pets. Bye now.